Good afternoon and welcome to the South Haven Regional Business Hub's DIY marketing using Gemini for your small business. The South Haven Regional Business Hub is in its fourth year providing services like mentoring, small business workshops, financial templates, and pretty much any other service that a small business could use. And we do serve in three-county region. I think it's called Region 8 in the Lakeshore area that includes Berrien, Cass, and Van Buren counties. Visit the website at southavenregionalbusinesshub.org to find resources, connect with mentors, and learn about coming events. I'm Sherry Bales. I'm going to be the presenter for today's webinar, and I am the owner of Hannah Gold Communications. I graduated from Western Michigan University with a master's in interpersonal communication, and I work for the South Haven Regional Business Hub as a marketing consultant and a subject matter expert. I'm also a volunteer with SCORE of Kalamazoo in Southwest Michigan. I am a Grow with Google High Impact partner, meaning I've been a partner with Google since before Gemini came out. And I'm a LinkedIn advisor and a partner with Constant Contact email marketing as well. So let's get into this. On today's agenda, we'll be introducing you to Gemini and defining what that is. We will be working on our first prompts. It's a little like riding a tricycle. You get to start riding a bike, you get to start with training wheels. We will talk about keywording for blogs, and blogs are going to be really important for Google when it comes to providing search results. We'll also talk about crafting and creating a social media post. I get lots and lots of questions about what should we talk about? What should we publish? We'll talk about how to use Gemini to make that just a little bit easier. Also going to talk about our websites for a minute, and I will define things like optimizing and SEO and keywords and hashtags and tagging as we go through. I try not to use too many little acronyms. We'll have a section on research and rewriting using Gemini, which allows you to take, say, a bulleted list and remove all the bullets and put it in alphabetical order, or change it and put it back. So kind of fun. We will talk just briefly about how Gemini can help you determine the analytics and the ads planning that you need to do. And then I do have a couple of Q&As at the end. If we get to where you have more questions before that, we'll try to stop and answer them. So let's just dive in. What is Gemini by Google anyway? Well, Gemini is a generative AI platform. AI stands for artificial intelligence. This means that the computer takes the thinking out of our hands. It can think, it can process, it can predict, not the stock market yet, but it can be used to create new content based on information that we provide. So the best description that I think I've ever heard is AI takes your little kernel of a prompt. Maybe it's a find me tacos near me, for example. And Gemini goes and encompasses the entire history of the internet and then gives you back your little kernel of tacos near me. Even if you say, give me a list of 5 places for tacos near me, you're done just like that. So it focuses on creating new content, and it also learns and remembers what you have told it to do and how you have used it in the past. So it will learn your voice, your feel, your AP style or APA style. You can ask her to do either. She does make mistakes, and she will apologize profusely, but recent research says that according to a survey of 2,000 small and medium-sized business leaders like yourselves, that 82% of people, of businesses using AI have already seen positive outcomes. I would ask you to raise your hands, but I can't see you. Me too. I have begun using AI to help service, not just service my clients, on a broader scale, but also to kind of work myself out of a job by teaching them how to do what I do with AI. There's more to it than that, obviously, but So that's just a brief description of Gemini. And I'm here because I am a Grow with Google partner who got to actually beta test the platform previously known as Bard, which is now Gemini. So I have been playing with this for quite some time. And I've got to say that the majority of the learning has come through trial and error. And there's just no wrong, well, there is a wrong way. She'll just tell you no. But there's just no real wrong way to do this because it's all generated by what you ask her to do. And I will call this Gemini a her all day today. So what could you use a hand with? Streamlining research, streamlining writing. So you can literally ask Gemini anything. I asked her for the best way to refinish honey oak cabinets in a 1970s wraparound kitchen. She gave me step by step. She gave me products that she recommended, including bin, sealant, and Dutch Boy cabinet paint, which turned out very nicely, and actually told me where to buy that and how much it should cost me. Yeah. Okay, so she's pretty smart. I did what she said. It worked out really well. So you can ask her to shop. You can ask her to do research. Please quote your sources. The prompting is what is critical. Some of us here grew up with what was called WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. This is real similar to that. If I ask a stupid question, I'm going to get a stupid answer. So when I prompt it, it's not going to be right the first time. I mean, who looked up a source for a college paper and found exactly what they needed on the first trip? No, to the library, no. But you get back what you put in. So the more information you provide ahead of the prompt or with the prompt, the more your chances are closer to getting what you're looking for. You can use it as a research tool, like I said, as a search tool, like I said. More and more, if you are shopping or you do a search on Google, you will get a result presented at the top that says AI generated. That is Gemini taking your search and guessing what it was you were looking for on Google. This is on a Google search, and showing you those resources or those results. It's also helpful to find credible sources for data. Do not publish a healthcare plan with AI written sources because it was pretty easy for the media to call those sources who then said, no, we never did that research. So it's not being used for all good things right now, but you may use it for all good things. So support it. If you get data from her, assume that it's maybe correct, but double check it. You wouldn't publish something yourself without double checking it anyway. Don't rely that much on AI, I guess. For streamlining writing, I use this all the time. I have certain voices that certain clients want. Some are happy and cheerful, and some are very businesslike, and others are, well, we just have to put this stuff out there. But it's okay. We can use AI in their voice once we create that background for her in our prompts. We can use it for common reports and templates. If you put all of your financials in for the year in a list and said, build out a spreadsheet with this, she would probably do that. I don't know that this would be the tool that I would use. I might ask her to generate a template first and then download it. Topic prompts, clients always struggle with what should we talk about? What should we write about? What should be our next blog? We can ask Gemini and she will give us suggestions based on your URL, your website. And then some of the streamlined things that I like is just being able to order things that are in a list or take things that are in a huge chunk of text, like a list of names and positions, and get rid of everything but the name and the position, and then organize it in alphabetical order, and then add bullets. So a lot of fun things that I do with streamlining the writing. But let's talk about how to prompt in Gemini. Think of it like a conversation. The more details you give her, the more likely you are to get the results you're looking for or something close to that. So for example, if I were generating a basic marketing plan for my bakery, and then I add the target audience, which is the demographic area around my bakery that I've determined might be 5 miles, might be 2 miles. And then anything else about my audience. And our marketing goal here is to generate a basic marketing plan. When we asked her to do that, she will, but it's important the way we ask has an influence on what we get. So using natural language, a persona describes the ideal audience member for this content. If I am doing content for a home care service, not home health care, but just home care, and my target demographic is women over the age of 60 who live within 5 miles of zip code 49008. That's a persona. I've created an ideal person, if you will. And then I might even go so far as to add this person lives within that distance, has aging parents or adult children, and subscribes to Martha Stewart Living. We can get that specific, and she can tell me, if I give her that information, she can tell me what I'm trying to find out. The more concise and specific I am with what I write in the prompt, the more concise and specific she will be when she returns that. If you want the style to be conversational, you can say, make that conversational. That's boring. If you want it to be explained like you're 5, you can say to her, take this content and explain it to me like I'm 5. I literally used Gemini AI to write code for a Google Data Analytics course I took. It wasn't for credit, but she wrote code for both Sheets and for Excel. So it was kind of fun. And then she's typically very hyperbolic or very like over the top. If you see social media posts that start with elevate or some other ones, curate, or just really big over the top words, it's written by AI. Chances are, if it has the word elevate in it, it's gone through an AI platform. So just take out elevate, just say, don't use elevate ever again. And she'll try to remember that. But I'm not a fun and funky writer. So having someone here that can say, oh, here's this cool thing that you would have never thought of in 10 years is really helpful for prompting. Now, I'm not relying on this to do all my work. I'm relying on this to slap me upside the head and go, you didn't even think about doing this. And it happens daily. Remember too that using AI, or specifically Gemini, is an iterative process, meaning you will have to add details, maybe subtract details, maybe rewrite sections, maybe ask for more information about something that was recommended, maybe change your idea from conversational to now fun and funky. If you just keep going in that same thread, you won't be disappointed. The more you tell her, the more she will return to you. So you're going to review it, you're going to refine it, you're going to review it some more, you're going to refine it some more, then you're going to validate it. Does this say anything that's not accurate? And if it does, don't publish it. Go find it, get the source, present the source, and then publish it. And then avoid jargon and acronyms, because she may have a completely different understanding of what a set of letters means until she understands you and the prompt that you are doing. So this is kind of the anatomy of a prompt. There's the persona, which is small business owner in this case. There's the task, which is to draft a business plan. There's the audience. The persona is based on the relevant company details. So that audience member is going to be based on what the company sells, right? We're going to have the context, which is I'm a small business owner. And in this case, we want to limit it to bullet points. So you could say format it with bullets. If you have not yet opened your Gemini.google.com app on your phone or your desktop, go ahead and do that now, because we'd love to have you play along as I show some prompts. You could jump in and try your own versions of those. All right, this is about prompting. This is just some suggestions on how to word your prompts, how to make the iterations of your prompts, and then what you can expect in return. By the way, you cannot copyright or trademark content generated by AI. I don't know why, because I guess because it's not original, but so prompt iteration examples, draft an email confirming that I will be at the staff meeting 15 minutes early. Ask if we can adjust the agenda for urgent topics, sign my name. That sounds like a silly thing to ask, but my husband had to respond to a job offer and was really struggling with how to say, I'm open for negotiations, right? So I took what he had written, which wasn't bad, put it into Gemini and said, make this a little more professional. And sure enough, we hit refine, make professional. He's like, wow, yeah, that's pretty good. So he used it. Prompt number 2, generate a list of 4 relevant and engaging thought leadership blog post ideas for XYZ is our favorite company. Based on trending topics, our target audience analysis, who we would give to them, and our brand keywords, which we would also give to Gemini. Or you could just say, create an image of a truck. Now, granted, Gemini is not an image producing platform. She will try. I have seen her attempt photos, but if you're going to generate AI images, you're probably going to want to go over to ChatGPT just because that's what it does, and video and music and but Gemini is catching up. I mean, it was really designed, I think, to help with search and map results on Gemini platforms. And Gemini on Google platforms. Google's the #1 search engine in the world, and YouTube is the #2 search engine in the world, and Google owns YouTube. So it just makes sense to me to play in the Google sandbox. I can't verify that that's accurate data, but that's been my experience. Here's another prompt, write a marketing plan for XYZ business, and I'm going to give you my website from which to draw that information. It will surprise you the power of this. And so these are in the chat, and you'll also get these on your email if you registered for this webinar. If you didn't register, you'll have to reach out to me later. At the end, there'll be a contact address to get any of the additional documents. So there will be a totally generated marketing plan and a social media plan coming up that you'll see. But what you ask for is what you get. You have to tell her what you want to have happen. So I need to write a marketing plan for this new business. I need to identify target audiences and channels, meaning what else do I need besides my website? Do I need email marketing? Do I need social media? Do I need video? And then I asked her to perform a SWOT analysis, one thing, and suggest a budget, second thing. So this is one thread of prompting that has been edited for each of these different parts to be added to it. And a SWOT analysis, if you've written a business plan recently, this could be helpful, stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And our hostess, South Haven Regional Business Hub Executive Director Debbie Howe, called me yesterday and asked me to help perform a SWOT analysis and a suggested budget for marketing for a new business. We determined that that small business did not have enough of a differentiator or something that would really set them apart as they were looking at creating the business, that they would have too much competition to succeed. So it was a really valuable 20, 30 minutes that we spent. And then I was able to generate an actual document with all of this. You can download these results and send it along to her to share with the clients. So, well, we can't say, well, that business doesn't sound like it's really going to work. If we get data that says, well, that business doesn't really sound like it's going to work, we're obligated to tell you all that. So it's better to know now that you don't have something special that you think you have, and not go spend a lot of time and effort. All right, so then I'm going to take it further. This is my 4th prompt. All right, still using the xyz.com website, draft a business plan. Provide an executive summary. I mean, I don't know why they put the executive summary at the beginning, because you have to write it at the end. This is the best. If you take an existing business plan, you copy the whole thing and you put it into Gemini and say, provide an executive summary, she will do that. But remember, and the first time I got asked about this was on the SCORE SBA Town Hall Small Business Week Summit. I was doing a webinar and they said, well, can we use AI? This was 2 years ago. Can we use AI for writing a business plan? And I was like, well, I don't know why not. However, you still need to have all the data. You need your products, you need your competitors, you need your marketing strategies, you need your staffing and your banking and your numbers. And so, sure, but the fact is, you got to know that. You have to know that in order to get Gemini to write it for you. So, it's not cheating. It's really not cheating. And most of what generative AI, what we're talking about, does is just give you ideas. It doesn't solve problems or, make the end all be all. It gives you ideas. So then, as we were saying, we did our SWOT analysis and we saw some of the challenges for that small business. Then we did an actual competitive analysis of these. So it would be something like find bed and breakfast or similar lodging within a 15-mile radius of XYZ town who have these two amenities. And then we had a direct comparison. So there are 15 places that have what it is you're thinking about offering. Is it still a good idea? So that's an example of prompting. Now let's talk about blogs. There's a lot of big words here. Generate keyworded blogs. A blog is a page on your website that talks about a specific topic. It could be a product, it could be a service, it could be a how-to, it could be a top 5. Anything that gets 300 to 400 words on a page of your website about one topic is a good page. So what I see instead is single page websites where product 1, product 2, product 3, product 4 are all on the same page. That's going to confuse a Google search, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Okay, so we still have to teach Gemini about our company before we go crazy doing social media posts and blogs and websites and stuff. So if I know that I have one product in particular that I want to focus on this month, I can ask, since she already knows, remember we've already been asking her questions, she already knows what XYZ company is. She's going to give me 5 topics focusing on product A. And let's just say product A is personal home care services. So then I will say, great, take topic 1 in the ideas that she just gave me, next prompt, and provide a title, an H1 and H2, a meta description, and tags. And let me tell you what all those are. The title is what Google says. So it ought to say something about personal home care services. The H1 are the most important words on the page. Sadly, often website designers leave you with keywords H1 services, or the H1 contact us, or the H1 blogs. None of those will get you found in a Google search. If it says home personal care blogs, then likely. But if you're not talking about what's on the page, Google's not going to find you. That H1 is an indicator to the Google search platform that this is what my story is about. And if you read further down, the H2, we can call them subheadings, headings, subheadings. But the most important thing on the page should be the words that the story is about or the service is about, personal home care services. Then you reinforce that with words on the page. So far, we have a headline, we have a title. The meta description is the little excerpt that pops up on a website search when you open you look for a company and you see their name and then you see a little blurb underneath it. That's the meta description. You can install that yourself, or you can let Google do it for you. I don't advise that. I advise you to install that on the back side of your website. And tags, let's get the tags, hashtags at kind of out of the way here because we're going to talk about SEO. Hashtags identify existing content on the web, just like the Dewey Decimal System. So if you go to Facebook and type hashtag home care, you're going to get all of the posts on social media, Facebook in this case, that have used the hashtag home care. So they've used the actual home care, one word, hashtag in front of it. All right. The SEO is using those keywords, meaning what's important to you, personal home care, probably personal home care, my city, using those keywords in your website content. SEO stands for search engine optimization. That means if the words I search for, home, personal home care, Kalamazoo, are not on your website, Google's not going to show me that page. They're not going to show me your website. If the first and second and third part of your website page do not contain the words personal home care, Kalamazoo, or something very close to that, you are not going to be found for those words. There's actually a case study on my website that talks about Chicago Crane Company. And he's like, we're just not getting found for Chicago Crane Company. And I'm like, well, let's go look at your website. Does it say Chicago Crane Company on your website? And it didn't. It really didn't. You can talk about it all the different ways, but you got to think about how the searcher, me, is going to type it and look for it, and then how the Google bot is going to find it once you have put the words up there that people are searching for. So then I said to her, okay, we got these 5 ideas. Let's use number 1 and write me 350 words, find a credible source and quote the owner of the business. I don't know why I revised it to include me, and the bottom bullet just shows you there was a lot more there in the iteration process. Then it was a little too casual. It had a little too much, uppity, elevating, and fancy big words. And our target audience for this is busy moms of adult children who are also parenting their parents. So we needed it rewritten in a bit more formal voice. And then I went, oh, I forgot to mention about XYZ or ABC. So now add a new section and give me that. And so she did, and she rewrote that. And like I said, I'm going to be sending you some copies of some of these things in the resources. Here's that blog. This is a different company. This is a CPAP mask cover company, but this was the process we used. Create a blog focused on the effects of sleep disorders. Sleep apnea gets you tagged as being medical, so we don't always use that phrase. And provide a case study for a 30-year-old male, obese, casual smoker. So this person doesn't exist. We just said, make up a person, a persona, and then tell me a story about him. So now let's look at how this blog, as it sits right now, satisfies Google's search engine optimization criteria. The key topic that we're addressing is sleep disorders and the effects of not using the CPAP machine. So our first headline, how CPAP therapy can transform your life. Restoring mental wellness. So if anyone is out there searching for mental wellness, CPAP therapy, CPAP and mental wellness, transform, I don't know about transform your life. Again, that's one of those hyperbolic titles that I probably wouldn't say because it doesn't sound like what I would search for. But so Google reads that and goes, okay, so this is about CPAP therapy and mental health. Cool. So then she'll say, Google, might be a bot here, could be not a she, but then the bot will say, what's that first paragraph say? Does it still match up with CPAP and sleep apnea and mental wellness? And you read the first paragraph and it says, yep, it sure does. And it immediately then Googlebot says, wow, this has got some potential. We might have to show this website to the person who just searched for that. Then we just drive it home with PubMed Central, which is a medical journal. We quote from a source, a credible source, and Google sees that in paragraph 2 and goes, oh, I'm liking this even better. Then we hit them with an H2, which is the second most important phrase on the page, which is getting down to the meat of it, which is if you don't treat your sleep apnea, this is what will happen to you. And by now, Google has said, all right, you checked all the boxes. It was mental wellness, it was CPAP, it said apnea, it said mental health, and bam, that page gets shown because of the layout of the items on the page and the assignation of the H1, H2. That's a 10,000-foot view. I know it's a deep, deep, deep topic, but just knowing that the most important words on the page should not be contact us, should not be our story. They should have something in them, those H1s on your website pages that say what it's about so people can find it. All right, let's switch over to social media now. This is probably the most challenging area that most people interact with or need to interact with, most of our small businesses. And again, this has made my life much simpler because where like you guys are writing 8 to 10 posts for social a month, I'm writing 80 to 90 posts for social media a month. Now, am I just letting the Gemini do all the work for me? No. What I use it for is to generate the ideas, okay? So now we have kind of our our blog story that's kind of going on. We'll call that blog 1. Now I'm going to ask Gemini, and still in that same thread of that same prompt, I'm just iterating it or reiterating it. I'm going to say using blog 1, write 2 social media posts, 70 words with a call to action for call now, this phone number, and add hashtags. So CTA stands for call to action. And that means when you publish something in a social media post that says, call us, visit us, stop by, learn more, read more, make sure you give us a way to do that. What happens a lot is people use Meta Business Suite to do this, correct? But they start with Instagram, and Instagram doesn't allow you to put your phone number or your URL or your email in the post. And what ends up is they end up not having a call to action on the other social media channels. So work smarter, not harder. Start with Instagram, but make sure that you have them, the posts are different. So you have a Facebook post and you have an Instagram post in your Meta Business Suite. That's a whole nother workshop. Well, then I realized, well, it's 70 words, that's kind of long for Instagram. So now make a second version of only 50 words. And you'll be able to see this in the social media example that I will provide for you. And then for this same topic, remember our topic is mental health and sleep apnea compliance, provide a top 5 list. So the top 5 things that you should be doing, and I think that made it into the blog, the top 5 recommendations, because we didn't want to be total downer with the whole thing, like don't use it, you're gonna, be miserable. Then, because this was a local company, we wanted them to talk about localized resources. And what I think we ended up with here was a list of just helpful local companies, either sleep apnea or I forget, like sleep testing, mental health referral programs, just pulled some together from this list to offer to their readers who might need more intervention on it. You cannot rely 100% and avoid extreme hyperbole like the plague. Get that? Avoid like the plague. Hyperbole is when you're just using a big old fancy word like elevate, escalate, things that most people don't say in their common daily language. If you see the word elevate on a social media post, it's probably written by AI. So here's what I said. This is our bookstore. This is the one you're going to get in the handout. Create a 3-month social media content calendar focused on creating awareness of the store to online customers. So that's our persona. It's who it is. It's what we want. It's where they are. So here are the themes that she came up with. Now, these are hard. We don't like talking about ourselves. I'm great at talking about other people, but I rarely do marketing for myself. But if you need this push, this prompt to say, gosh, she's probably right. I probably should talk about myself or what we have to offer, then this can really help you get into that zone where you would not normally be comfortable. But here's some ideas for social media for month 1. And I think I've given you a 3-month breakdown you can borrow from. Introduce the bookstore. Who are you? I can give examples of, I could post 8 posts a month and have decent engagement, people clicking, commenting, liking, sharing. And the client can go show up at a networking event that they're going to, take a picture on the way in, a little selfie, and get 8,000 likes. So anything you do about you is going to be more better than anything an agency is going to write based on your services or your special sauce or whatever. So just know that knowing you on social media is more important than your products and services. Curated collections. For this, we've done a couple of things with this. One of the companies we work with has their 2-year anniversary. So we have a collection of images of them at different networking events, because it's home care, different networking events throughout the community. So people will see themselves in those pictures, and we will also tag those events that she was attending. Community building, that's where you ask questions. You join groups. Honestly, groups is the biggest thing on Facebook for me right now. You join groups who have things in common with you so that you can then like, comment, help, provide research, whatever, to these group people. And most groups allow you to promote your business at least once a week, especially if you're joining groups like the South Haven Regional Business Hub Networking Group on Facebook. There are groups on LinkedIn that do the same thing, but building that community, asking questions of people, running a poll, sharing lost dog posts. Oh my gosh, my data supports that more lost pet posts get shared than lost children posts. I mean, it's like saying that the incidence of violence goes up when the temperature rises. Yeah, is there a correlation? I don't know. But having those groups is really helpful. Value proposition, what are you special for? And Debbie Howe and I, the executive director of the South Haven Regional Business Hub, just ran one of these for a new business and discovered they just weren't special enough to go forward with that value proposition. So what is it about our little bookstore that is special to the shoppers, the online customers? Is it the supporting independent booksellers, a small independent bookseller? Is it we have unique books? Is it you can learn about new things you won't get anywhere else? Bunches of things you can do there. And then a behind the scenes. Like I said, those always fare better than anything I can publish. Let's talk about SEO. Remember that stands for search engine optimization. And if your website does not have the words that I just typed into the Google search, your website is not going to show up. So it is that literal. If I am sitting in Portage, Michigan, and I type tacos near me, and let's say I type burrito tacos near me, I'm going to get, number one, anybody who has a Google business profile, because that's what that's for. Hit me up afterwards if that doesn't sound familiar. But I am not going to be taken to a website that only has tacos first. Google is going to look for the words birria tacos. If I'm saying that right. They're going to look for both those words first. If it's not on my website, you're not going to be shown my website. I have to have the words on my website, like the Chicago Crane Company. They thought they had it wrapped up, but they didn't have the words Chicago Crane Company on their website. Once they added them, their website content then became optimized, meaning of optimum quality, for a Google search, SEO, search, Google engine, Google optimization words. So you can actually take Gemini and give her enough information like the who, what, where, when, why, how, which is the www thing, web links. Maybe you have a Yelp page out there, or you have a Better Business Bureau page. Maybe you have a YouTube channel. Maybe you have a document that lists all of your policies and procedures. Maybe you have a blog that talks about all your services. You can pile all those resources into your prompt and ask her to do that for you. Provide homepage content. She can literally write your website for you. Now, you're just going to publish it from there? No. No, 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 no. This worked really well for a recent company that we had that just didn't have a real focus. She had a big rental business, but it was not coming through on her website. We found out that she also had multiple pages on her website that she did not need. So Google would go there looking for careers. She didn't have anything on that page. It was an empty tab. They would go for looking for shop. She didn't have a shop on the page. And then what was the third one? I think it was events. Oh, Lord, don't put an events calendar on your website if you're just starting out. It's way hard to maintain. But so Google or Gemini looked at this and said, well, this website has this, this, and this, but it doesn't appear to be using it. And it doesn't have things like a privacy policy and a returns and exchanges policy, which you will need to do Google advertising. So I would add those. Bam! It's called a website map. It tells us what pages we need and what should be on each page. Well, once she gets the page, then she needs blog content, which is just a story. A blog can be a page about your services. A blog can be a page about a recipe for a product that you manufacture. A blog can be a how-to story. A blog can be a top 5 story. A blog can be a where to find it story. A blog can be about anything, just basically anything. A page on your website can be considered a blog, and it's a story, it's a set of words. So now I have written my homepage for this rental service for this new client. Now I need a blog because just saying rental isn't going to be enough for Google to find me. So I need to talk about bike rentals and this rental and this rental and this rental. So I'm going to go with service, which is rentals, and I'm going to localize it, which would be rentals South Haven. And then I'm going to probably go with bike rental South Haven because that's the biggest search for this particular area. Now I'm going to say to Gemini, now write me a 250 word blog about bike rentals in South Haven. Provide a H1, H2, description, call out, credible source, bulleted list, tags, and suggest an image. That doesn't mean you're going to get one. Now let's unpack all of those words there. So the service one was rentals. And remember, we had a bunch of rentals underneath there, but primarily they're beach and bike rentals. So provide H1. Remember, H1 headline, header 1, it could be called any number of things on your web platforms, is the most important piece of information on the page, according to Google. It should be the most important piece of information on the page, according to you. So saying about us, when it should say South Haven Bike Rentals, you're not going to carry the search results with that as a header 1. So the easiest thing you can do to check your SEO on your website is to go look at your H1s and H2s. So again, Google's going to read the H1. Okay, if it's about bike rentals South Haven, it's going to keep going. Then it's going to read the first paragraph. Then it might read the H2. All of these are built by your website designers or installed by you. So knowing some of this when you're working with the web designer can be really helpful. And then you see after the H2 is the description, which is what you see when someone searches a website and it pops up and has this little blurb underneath it. That's what that comes from. The call out, I just like the way a call out looks, like a quote from someone in the middle of a story. I did ask for a credible source, and I did check my source to make sure that it actually existed. I asked her to include a list of bulleted items, like top 5. I don't even have a title for this thing yet. I just want her to write about rentals, and then provide tags and suggest an image. She's not going to design a good image for us. That's just not what this platform does. This is for writing and generating generative AI. So you can suggest it, but I would not design it. I'd just go over to ChatGPT if I were going to design it. So many of us, when we start out with thinking about a website, thinking about marketing, have to come up with a list of keywords, hashtags, SEO, all for the same thing. So my research, this is our bookstore example. My research, I said, give me some hashtags or compelling SEO, and it's a standalone phrase, for small online bookstore targeting readers across the US. These can all be hashtags in my social media posts. Without the actual hashtag mark, these can be tags in my website content. At the bottom of the article, you'll sometimes see tags and it lists what the article was all about. And if I wanted to localize this, let's say this is a bookstore in Vicksburg, Michigan, then I would take things like book lover, books, bookstore, and add Vicksburg. Vicksburg bookstore, Vicksburg books, Vicksburg book lovers, Vicksburg reading. That's localizing your SEO. So if you have a large target audience, a large region that you serve, probably shouldn't just say the United States. You should narrow that down, and using the areas that you serve in your copy, in your website copy, is a good way to integrate that. Let me give an example. I worked with Sheriff Goslin Roofing, and they have branches in Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan. When we would write blog content for them, each location would get its own blog. So the title of the article might be, what to watch for in the winter in your Indiana home, or what to watch for on your roof in the winter in your Kalamazoo home. So it was really, really specific with that header one, the name of that blog page, and using that SEO. There's also just a Google keywords generator tool that you can use. I think it's also free. But this is Google. So I'm thinking she should know what the Google wants. What about re-optimizing? So I can ask, and this is what we did with the rental place, I can ask Gemini to look at an existing website and evaluate it for H1, H2, paragraph 1, maybe H2, keywords, images. I can just ask her, what are we doing right here? What are we doing wrong here? And then if I want to go and find out myself, if you use the Chrome browser, on the top right-hand side is a little puzzle piece. It's called plugins. If you click that and open it, you can actually download this plugin. It's called SEO Meta in one click to see your page structure. You can see what your H1s are. You can see what your headers too are. And if they are about us or contact us, change them. Just get someone to change them and make them talk about what's on the page. If your page title is blog, it's got to be more descriptive or you will never be found. So this is a case of taking what you have in existence already. Before we were generating new content. What should we be talking about? What should we be publishing? Here I'm saying, take what I have and tell me what's wrong with it. And then give me a site map or a list of page navigation pages that I should have on this new website. And she will do that. All right, research and rewriting. Always validate your sources. Use this a lot to reformat text. I can take a 350-word article, let's say on the mentors of the South Haven Regional Business Hub. And I can say, get rid of the bios, just put their name and what their position is, what their subject matter expert area is, and put them in alphabetical order and number them from 1 through 30. And just that fast, it's done. You have to tell it exactly what to do, though. And that's that kind of quick rewrite format. Here's some research. She does a lot of research. She's doing research right now on shopping, on Google Shopping. If you do a search for a dishwasher on Google Shopping or on Google, you will get an AI generated results list first. And it typically goes about an inch or two. And then it says read more. And you open that up and it's this. It's basically this as a result of dishwasher near me or whatever you search. So I did this dishwasher near me because I needed a dishwasher. And I found out the dishwasher that I wanted. And I said, find this product near me because I didn't want to buy from the manufacturer. And then show me a list of offerings. And in my case, I didn't need target audience, but I said, and prices. So if I were doing competitors' products, then I would want to know who are those other competitors and who are their target audience. And then I can also take my research that I have found that is a page and a half long that I really like, that I can't plagiarize it, but I need to kind of word it so that my audience will understand it. So I can do that in a pretty short number of clicks. We can research competitive analysis. We can ask for a potential marketing budget based on the information we put in. And we can even ask for marketing planning. All right, so here's an example of a comprehensive marketing plan for a small online bookstore targeting readers across the United States. And this is what you will be getting. So I'm not going to read this to you. It will be in the handouts. But if you have ever written a marketing plan or have ever written a business plan, you know that the executive summary is the hardest part. So having someone write that for you, that's just golden. And then I said, well, do the SWOT analysis because that's part of the marketing plan. She did all of this with very little prompting. She understood comprehensive marketing plan. And this is what she started with. So I'm just showing you the first 50 lines. There's 5 pages here. But the SWOT analysis, remember, strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. I always forget the threats and threats. She actually identified reasonably logical weaknesses, no brand recognition, smaller marketing budget. These are all things you guys are dealing with as small business owners. Potential logistical challenges, and then opportunities. You notice the community and curated is in there. The more specific you can get, the more niche you can get, the more special sauce you can get, the more likely you are to get that market share. But again, this thing is all in the handouts. Briefly, analytics and ads, I did want to touch on this because you can use this to help you strategize both your data analytics and your ads programs. Now, it doesn't necessarily track it, although you could write code. I used Gemini to write code for my Google Data Analytics certificate program, not for credit, but she can write code for Excel and spreadsheets and stuff. But she's going to tell you the tools you need or that she thinks that you could use for tracking website traffic and conversions from different marketing sources. So what I'm asking her to do is to tell me who comes to my website, where from, and what they do. So conversion means they clicked, they put something in the cart, the shopping cart, they read a page, they filled out a contact us form. I want to track all that stuff so I know what's most popular. Well, the number one tool, because it's Google, that they're going to recommend is Google Analytics. And if you do not have Google Data Analytics tied to your website, you should do that because it's how I make major marketing decisions. That's just all there is to it. It tells you what happens on your website. Next is Google Tag Manager, which allows you to see exactly what happens on certain pages of your website. So let's say you launch a new blog and you want to make sure that everybody that reads that blog clicks the contact us button at the bottom. You can get that specific. It's called event tracking, that you could track a click. A UTM, I don't even know what UTM stands for. Universal Tag Manager, maybe. Parameter Builder. That's a fake URL that you use to track how many people used that URL. So I would take sherrybales.com, create a UTM that said sherrybales.com. And if you see these, you recognize them, /UTM/Facebook ads /fall 2025. I could tell myself later when I look at the analytics exactly where that link came from, which ad campaign it was in. If you have an e-commerce business, you're probably already set up in that, Wix, Shopify, whatever platform. I still would bring it into Google Analytics 4, which is the newest version. And then there's always, tell me how to do this in a spreadsheet. I don't think that there would be any problem telling you how to write a formula to be able to add and delete and calculate and measure and quantify. It's just not something I would do. I would let my web designer hook up my Google Analytics and my Google Tag Manager, and then I would use my UTM builders. It's all high level spam at this point. It's just so many words, but these are ways to measure website traffic and the clicks and where they go to, and to tell you where they came from. On ads, again, she's not going to write the ads for us. Although if you are using Google Ads, you can in fact say, write me 15 30-character keyword phrases for Google Ads, and she will do that. You'll have to cut and paste them in. The coolest thing I just found recently wasn't actually ads, it was a calendar. I put a list of dates. My husband's a scorer for the Kalamazoo Growlers, and I put a list of dates of the games into Gemini, and I said, add these to my calendar. And she did. She did, which is a little bit scary, okay, a little bit frightening, but okay, so here I want the strategy. Remember, she's going to generate what I give her the information to do. So outline a strategy for running a targeted Facebook ad campaign to reach local buyers in a 100-mile radius of Detroit. So I had a small business client that was doing an event in Detroit, a big event, and we decided to ask what strategy Google might use for this. We developed a Google ad, and I think she had 1,200 impressions. An impression is a vanity metric. Impressions is like driving by a billboard on the highway. It's like, oh, that product. So I don't put a lot of faith in those, but she had something like 81 clicks to her website during the time she was at this event. So because we planned that strategy ahead of time and we had the data set up and we used the right words in the ad, we used the right demographics in the ad, we identified their behaviors, we were able to really micro face on that. And so increase website traffic from the Detroit area metro 15% in 1 month. We did that in 4 hours. So you got to think it's Google Ads, it's a Google sandbox, it's Google keywords, it's Google SEO. Everything is Google. Why shouldn't we play in the Google sandbox? And that's Gemini for empowering your DIY marketing. Certainly helps me work faster and allows me to then help my clients do what I do for them in my absence. I want to say I'm not working myself out of a job here, but we did have a couple of great questions that I just want to run through real quickly before I sign off. We have just a couple more minutes. One of the questions was how to create a killer marketing website. And I think it was more about how to market a killer website. But I thought I would answer it both ways. So it goes back to, I'm going to switch over to the Contact Us page now. It goes back to what you say on the pages of your website and what your website does for you based on what you need it to do. So if you have a single page website and 5 services and all 5 services are on one page under the H1 called services, your website will perform fairly poorly in a Google search. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with your website. When I say it will perform poorly, just means Google's not going to find it. They're not going to find it. Take the words tacos near me. If I pull up in Portage, Michigan, and I pull out my Google Maps, because it works on maps and search, and I hit tacos near me, the first thing I'm going to get are Google business profiles. If you're a local business like Tacos Near Me, you don't have a Google business profile, call me after this. We'll get you set up, because that is the #1 thing I will see for tacos near me. Even if we make it burrito tacos near me. If my website doesn't list burrito tacos, even if I have them and they're somewhere like in a PDF menu that the Google can't read, you're not going to be found for that. So it's important not only to get the right words on the pages and get the right stuff on each page, but then to also make sure that the headlines or the H1s or the headers, they're called different things, are the most important words on the page. So about us does not really ring any bells with Google. About Burrito Taco Store, yeah, we got Burrito Taco in the H1 instead of just saying about us. So those are some good fixes. Another thing I see with websites is a minimalist approach. And I apologize in advance for all of the web designers who are doing this to you because it is 100% counterproductive to what Google wants. Google wants lots of words. They want one-stop shopping. When you search burrito tacos Kalamazoo, they want to send you to the #1 burrito taco store in Kalamazoo that has the most reviews, the highest rating, has burrito tacos on more than one page of its website, all that stuff. You're not designing a website for your customers. You say that again. You're not designing a website for your customers. You're designing it for your customers to use, but you are designing it for Google to find. So if you put too much on one page, too many irrelevant pieces on one page, that will confuse Google. If you don't put enough on a page, and let's say you have a list of 5 services and you have the cute little icons over each and then like 8 words that explain them, centered text, of course, light gray probably. Don't do that to me. #1, it looks like something I should be able to click on to read more about it, and it should be. But what we have is a generation of web designers who are designing for a mobile device without the consideration that Google wants thousands of words, not hundreds of words. They want the source they deliver to be the end all be all for that particular topic. Go figure. So I'm seeing a lot of minimalist web design where there's like a whole list of the towns that you serve, but there's nothing that integrates that into any content. It's just a bulleted list because they said, oh, let's localize your website by listing all the towns in a 15-mile radius. Okay. I mean, if someone searches Battle Creek, they might find your website, but if those words aren't connected to any other things like my roof in Battle Creek or my home care service in Battle Creek, don't expect results. You can't get the results if you don't have the words. I have clients who do 4,000 word, well, maybe not 2,000 word blogs. They want to represent on a whole list of keywords, which means their main topic then gets reiterated in a minor and a subhead and then another subhead, but it's still the main topic on one page. Most people don't need that many words to do a top 5 reasons to stay at this hotel kind of blog. So don't take the minimalist approach, and then make sure that, I guess my other tip for web is make it easy for people to reach you. Have a contact us form, have an email join newsletter form so that you can send emails to people. You do see that I can get you a free trial of Constant Contact if you want. That's also available on my website too. So if you can't scan your own scan, I understand that. So in a nutshell, making a website that is friendly to Google, that contains all the possible combinations of words, the way that the general public might search for them and hunt for them. And it may be that you have words that you don't want them. So here's an example. I worked with Club Car, golf cart distributor, and very small, little known fact, there is no T on the end of the golf car product. It's a golf car in the industry. However, none of us would call it a golf car because we're not in the industry. So when I optimized their website for SEO, I said, well, you have to say golf cart. They go, well, we can't. That's not what it's called. That would make us look stupid. I go, great. Then you'll never be found for resale, for rentals, for fleets by the undereducated. So we ended up doing 2 completely different sets of keywords for them. One that focused around carts, like golf cart near me, golf cart for sale, used golf cart, gas golf cart. And then for the forward facing, so these were all just buried in blogs and tags and things. Then for the forward facing, which were the industry people, it was all golf car. There was no cart. So it was a really tricky way to do it. So think about your customer. And if you have too fancy of a name, they're maybe not going to remember that. Maybe simplify that, and call it Sherry's Tacos. That's the other thing about websites is the name you buy for your URL, for your website address, has got to be memorable. Don't do it as a vanity. Don't make up fancy words and combine words that don't really go together. If you have a reputation, use your name. I did not come out with Hannah Gold Communications at the beginning. Well, I guess I did sort of at the beginning of my career, but no one knew what that was. So I have a website called sherrybales.com. When you go to that website, it takes you to Hannah Gold Communications because enough people knew Sherry Bales. I needed to have that URL so that I could get people to my real website. So maybe think about what you're naming your website too. I guess that would be part of that killer marketing thing. Okay, and then another question we have was with Gemini, will it actually create the image for you or do you just request a description? And you do just request a description. I have actually created a couple of images in Gemini kind of accidentally. We're having little power surges here. Um, and they're not very good. I have clients who have created images in Chat GPT and they're okay. But after a while, just like the word elevate in a social media post, we start to see pictures and we start to say, that shadow isn't really there. Or the best one, AARP had an actual webinar on how to spot fake AI photos. The best one is count the number of fingers, because typically AI is not very good with fingers, and you will have extras. So, in conclusion, how can you use Gemini? Well, I think we've pointed out that it can be used to generate ideas. So, what can I talk about on my social media this month based on this website and my previous social media? It can be used to rewrite chunks of large content or draft large content documents like blogs, marketing plans, social media plans, business plans, budgets. You can use it to create a itinerary. I used AI to tell me what to do with my kitchen cabinets. She said, go here, buy this, take this process, don't forget to do this. This is going to be a problem, buy this special tool, and you got it. And it was great. Just, I mean, you can't let her do all of the work for you, but for most small business people that I encounter, it's the idea generation that stumps us. And, I write the same content for the same clients month after month after month. I need a boost of creativity from time to time. And Gemini will do that. She will come up with things that I never thought of. And that's why I like this. So I think we will wrap it up there. As I said, if you are registered for this webinar, you're going to get an email once this quits processing and is ready to send, as well as the documents that I referenced before. And I urge you to get into Gemini and just play with it and make a new chat and play with it and make a new chat, or get one long chat that you really want to learn about and just really iterate it over and over and over, ask more, add more, subtract some things, throw her a curve, just see what you can do. And again, this platform is free. You just need to go to Gemini, google.gemini.com, I believe, and you can get started for nothing. So that is the end of today. And please do go visit the South Haven Regional Business Hub for all of your small business needs in the 3-county region of St. I knew I was getting it wrong, Van Buren, Berrien, and Cass County. We have mentors, we have programming like this webinar today, and we would really like to hear from you if you have a small business question. Thanks for being here.